Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will say this too, Verna, that in writing a nonfiction is about the facts and put the facts together to communicate a certain message. But when it comes to fiction, uh, you've probably discovered this as well as I have, and that is that fiction tends to write itself. When I started writing The Gatekeeper, when I started writing Beyond the Lies, they take on a life of their own. They go in directions I could not possibly envision that they would have went. And a lot of times when you're doing that, you're just along for the ride. And so you have to put them down and walk away from them until they get cold. And then you come back to them and say, what was I thinking? And then you go back at it again and you write a while, you review it a while, you edit it a while, you put it down and you walk away from it until it gets good and cold. It might be months. And you come back and you look at it and say, wow, that's awesome. And you write something down, say this would fit right here, and find out you've already written it back here. And so all you're doing is repeating something you've done. You say, whoa, that idea has already come and been incorporated. So you don't want to do that. So yeah, it's a really awesome thing to, actually get into these books. And these are the things that I learned in writing fiction, that they tend to write themselves. You're along for the ride, but you have to put them down and come back to them. At least I do. So they get cold and see if you actually agree with what you've written there. Nonfictions are about a lot of research and communicating a message.
When did you first discover that the book or one of your nonfiction took on a life of itself? I know for me, it was quite surprising.
Right.
I'm a new writer,
Right.
and I was very surprised that my character came to life. Like, I was so surprised. So when did that aha moment happen for you?
It actually happened with me with Beyond the Lies. The Gatekeeper was fiction, but it was also about demon possession, about this demonized temptress named Desiree, who was damning the souls of individual men who were receptive and fell prey to her charm. But more so in Beyond the Lies, because you're talking about a very passionate thing about a young man and a young lady and a family, and tragedies and all this thing. And the bottom line is as you start to write, it starts to pull you in a different direction, and you say, "Whoa!" And you back up, and you find out that's a better direction than the one that you had planned. So the book can be a complete surprise to you. Even the ending can be a complete surprise to you.
Wow, that's amazing. That is definitely amazing. And out of your books, who is your favorite character?
Well, if I had to choose the book that I wanted, well, actually, The Gatekeeper, I had a favorite character, Joshua Dawson, but in Beyond the Lines, it would be Jesse. Beyond the Lines is Jesse because she's strong, she's stubborn, she's determined, and she desires only the best for others, and she will not compromise her convictions. So she has the biggest influence on Anthony, the baseball player, who's become a functioning alcoholic, and he's angry at God. And when his life has spiraled out of control, she's the only one, not his mother, not his friends, not his teachers, not his coaches. She's the only one who can reach him. And that's due to her being not only his peer, but she also exhibits a never ending friendship and an unconditional love for the guy. And her public and her private commitment to live out her faith, Anthony knows about. And so she's the only person that can actually have any influence on him to rehabilitate his life and turn his life over to Christ. Okay, I will say this as it relates to Beyond the Lies. In the book, the tragedy that Anthony faces is that his father, his hero, dies. And my life was somewhat that way. Anthony thinks has a lock on life. He understands life. But in reality, that was the same thing that happened to me when I was coming up as a teenager. As teenagers, especially boys, maybe some young ladies as well, but we think we know everything. Okay, and my father and I would butt heads, and he'd had to really calibrate me by the time I got to school over at University of Tennessee. But he was my hero at the same time. My father was diagnosed with cancer in his 40s, and like Anthony's father, my father died in his 40s of lung cancer, just like Anthony's father. And so when my father before he died, he always told me how proud he was of me. I was at the University of Tennessee making good grades. He would not only tell me how proud he was of me, he would brag on me to other adults in my presence. And so when he died, the bottom line is my bottom dropped out of my life just like Anthony's. Now, I didn't turn to, alcohol like him. I didn't turn to, addictive substances like he did. But he died, my father died on May the 8th of 1977. That's Mother's Day. That's when my father died. And 2 years to the month after that, in May of 1979, I found myself on my knees, crying out to God and accepting the sacrifice of Jesus Christ for the remission of my sins. 2 years to the day. And up until that time, between May the 8th, 1977, and May of 1979, I was depressed. People would say, you seem to be down. I just say, I'm fine. But I was depressed. And there was this emptiness, this void in me that could not be filled until I felt the answer in Jesus Christ in May of 1979. But God took a sick woman. This is a whole different story. Took a sick woman and got me saved, and another guy who we both were praying about the same lady. And the thing is when I got down on my knees to pray for this lady in a room by myself, God told me, you need to pray for yourself. And I struggled with him, and I surrendered my heart to him. May of 1979, 2 years to the month after my father died, and he changed my life completely. Not eventually, immediately. And I am so thankful to him. And as far as my favorite character for the gatekeeper, again, it would be Joshua Dawson, the youth minister. He's a lot like Jesse in Beyond the Lies. He will not give up on this demonized, possessed temptress Desiree, no matter how much she seeks to wreak havoc in this guy's life. He is totally determined, just like Jesse was about Anthony, getting him rehab. He was certainly determined to work and pray for Desiree's deliverance from this demon possession and for her to come to salvation and faith through the blood of Jesus Christ. Why? Because Joshua Dawson, the youth minister, realized that Desiree was as much a victim of the powers of darkness as those men she herself was victimizing.
Wow, that's amazing. And going back what you said, you was praying for someone else.
Yes.
And God said you need to pray for yourself. That brought something to my remembrance. I had an incident at the job that I used to hold, at the place I used to work. And I was praying so hard for God. I mean, literally, I was praying so hard for God to really do something to this one particular. I mean, it's like he was just really getting to me. But I was praying for God to do something to him. I mean, it was awful. I mean, I really was praying this because he was really, getting to me. But as I was praying and asking God all these questions, God said to me, but you didn't ask me to pray for you. And I'm thinking, like, pray for me? Because, sometimes we could get all in ourselves and all in our feelings. And I realized I should have been praying for God, not to change his heart, but I should have been praying for God also to change my heart as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I give you a quick story on that?
Go ahead.
I don't do anything quick. You see how I slow. But I was working with this lady, and she was angry. I was kind of like directing her and a few other people's work, and she was kind of angry. And I asked her why, and she said that she was angry at this lady named Judy. She just wished that God would remove her off the job. And I said to her, you need to be praying for yourself that God would raise your level of spirituality. She said, no, I need to be praying for this woman that God moved her to another job. She drives me crazy. And I said, let me give you an example here. I said, it's like a ship that's in the United States, and what it does is if it wants to get to the Pacific Islands, and it's at Florida, it can't, you don't want it to, be shipped across land, and you don't want it to go all the way around South America to get to the Pacific Ocean. I said, what you want to do is you want to send it through a canal. And so what they do is when it goes through the canal, essentially, it encounters a big rock, a boulder in that canal, and it can't pass over. So what it has to do is it has to radio the individual who is in charge of that canal, and they'll flood it. They will flood that canal so that that ship that has a boat in front of it, that water level will rise above that boulder until it can safely pass over. And I said, that you notice in my example, the boulder didn't remove, but the ship rose above the level of the boulder so it could move on. I said, a lot of times God puts people and things in our lives that keep us from moving forward spiritually. And a lot of times we're saying, remove the boulder. God's not going to remove the boulder. But if we will concentrate on asking God to make us the person to act, to react against those obstacles that come about in our lives, that challenge our faith, that He will raise our level of spirituality. They may not change, but God may use them to change us so that we will be more effective witnesses for Him.
Absolutely. 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 That actually taught me to not wish anything on anyone else.
I understand.
Because God can really show you yourself